Now that you really understand what estimating is in Agile, let's talk a little bit about why it's important. Number one, and this is the most obvious one, is an estimate's providing you an estimated duration for completion. About how long do you think it's going to take you to complete this feature based on the requirements you were given? From an Agile standpoint, they'll put it into a bucket in the examples we gave earlier, small, medium, large, but that could be different buckets based on various techniques as you'll learn about in a future lecture. But that's the most obvious one. We're giving them the requirement. They're telling us an estimated duration. Now we can use that for our planning and moving forward on that particular feature, or deciding if, you know what, let's go ahead and table that. It's going to take a little bit longer than what we were expecting. The second thing that estimating does for you is it helps to drive out clarification questions. When you're asking somebody to commit something, you're asking them to commit an estimate for a particular task, they're going to spend a little bit extra time making sure that they read the feature, they read all those requirements, they read the acceptance criteria, and they have a good understanding of how they would go to accomplish this particular feature. Now, with doing that, they're going to also drive out additional clarification questions or unknowns that weren't defined there. So by asking for an estimate, not only are you going to potentially get a duration back, you also are going to get clarifying questions of things that you need to dig in further to and make sure that you have defined as part of the requirement prior to that requirement actually being able to be completed by that developer or the person creating that solution. So that's number two. It helps to drive out clarifying questions. Number three is it highlights complex or high-risk tasks. As you're working in projects more and more, you get a sense of how long things take. And when you're writing your user stories, your features, you have an idea if this is a small, a medium, or a large type of task. Now that's going to be really useful when you hand that to somebody that's going to be creating it, and then they give you an estimate back and they say, okay, I think this is a medium requirement or medium feature. You may say, wait a minute, I was thinking it was a small. So let's talk through a little bit. What are some of the complexities? What are some of the risk items that made you consider it a medium? So it helps to bring conversation and highlight some of those complexities and risky issues that you may not have been aware of or accounted for. Now, by highlighting and by knowing that information, you can make adjustments. Maybe you tweak the requirements a little bit. Maybe you tweak that feature to make it less complex by taking very little away from it or changing it very little. Maybe you look to mitigate or remove those potential risks that were identified as part of that feature, and so then it can be reduced in size. Ultimately, the goal isn't to reduce the size, but it's to make sure that it's in line with expectations and with what would want to be done for the value that feature provides. So those are the big reasons why we estimate in Agile. Provides that estimated duration, drives out additional clarification questions, and can help to highlight or point out areas of complexity or high risk that were previously unidentified or unaccounted for.